fuck is his name?
Talking about the Titans here. The Titans.
Swing and a drive, left field. It's gone. And it's gone. It is Bedlam at the bank.
The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Podcast right here. You already know. Go fucking subscribe. Go follow.
You are now listening to the 302 Birds Phillies postgame show with Eric, Brendan, Dalt, and Ballpark Tommy. Proudly powered by TickPick. Check out the link in the bio for $10 off your first order today. Let's take it to the show.
I want my trophy back unless it costs too much money. What's going on, everybody? Eric and Brendan here with the Phillies show. Thought we'd do a little bit something different. We were both kind of aching to get back to this format, get back to the swing of things. We know that the season doesn't start for a couple more months, and that's okay. But we miss you guys. I don't know if you miss us. You probably don't, but that's okay.
No, we ended.
But no, we wanted to do a special kind of show. We wanted to do something related to winter meetings. There's a lot of stuff that is going on right now. A lot of stuff going on in terms of rumors, in terms of things that have happened, in terms of our rivals signing people. So we're going to get into it. We're going to break some stuff down, sit back, grab some popcorn. We have a lot to talk about. We might have a special guest joining us later. I'm not sure. He hasn't said anything, but if he joins, he joins. If not, whatever. First thing we are going to get into, first major news that has happened in this past week. They did it, man. They did it. Juan Soto, he's officially a Met. And I don't know how to feel about this. $765. $765 million.
I wish.
$765 million over the course of the next 15 years. His contract is going to be done by the time I'm 40 years old. I'm 25 now. His contract is going to be done by the time I'm 40 years old. Because how old is he now? He's what?
He's 26. Yep, 26.
So, I mean, like, I don't know, man. I think it's a huge overpay. I really do. For my Mets fans watching, I mean, congratulations. Like,
no, absolutely not. Nope, we're not doing that. No, there's no.
Hey, man,
I can't do it. Especially when I'm wearing something like this, and it's, fanatic holding Mr. Met up like this. I have nothing but ill will towards a Mets fan right now. If you're a Phillies fan sitting here waiting for the winter meetings to happen, looking to see what this team is going to do, coming back off of where they were last year, this is as bad as it can get. Not a great way to start the upcoming season. Just from the aspect of it's going to screw up the offseason going into the winter meetings with the Yankees, the Red Sox, having them go out, letting them just go into a bidding war at this point because they're looking for an outfielder. The Yankees just signed Max Fried, which takes it away from my next point of the NL East is going to be a rat race for the next however long Dombrowski, Middleton, and Rob Thompson want to take this team and watch them go far. You have a team that the Atlanta Braves, who had Spencer Strider, Ronald Acuna hurt, now they're healthy and they're back with a vengeance. They were the third-ranked team last year after just being a powerhouse for the last 5. You now have the Mets willing to spend almost over $750 million on a player who probably shouldn't have made more than $400. Like, that's my take on it. I'm all for the capitalism gain of it all, watching people make money, grow your business. This is ridiculous. Even Shohei didn't make this much money. He is equivalent to, let's just say, a starting pitcher and an outfielder or a DH, whatever you want to call it. $300 million on both of them, or $350, puts him at $700. That makes sense. Defer the money. That makes sense. This is ridiculous for an unknown with a 5-year opt-out. I have nothing but ill will towards Steve Cohen. I hope you wasted every cent of this, and I just want to see this crash and burn the way every other Mets contract has. I got nothing.
That Bryce Harper contract looking pretty good right now, huh?
Yeah, I'd rather have you could have Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, and Bryce Harper for the amount of money that they spent just on Juan Soto.
I mean, I definitely agree, but here's my thing with the Juan Soto signing. It's, and we're going to get into this in a few minutes. I really hope it lights a fire underneath Dave Dombrowski's behind, because I don't know, dude. The Phillies were in talks the entire last couple months, and then for reports to come out, oh, we never got a meeting with him. They never met with him. And I think that's what irritates me the most is you didn't try. You didn't try. However, I do think this. The Yankees offered Juan Soto, I think it was $760 million over 15 years.
Yeah, and on top of that, the only reason why he didn't take that Yankees contract over the Mets contract is because the Yankees weren't willing to give him a suite unless he paid for it. Guys like Jeter and God knows who else, big, prestigious, the number 2, they pay for their own suites. Not a chance are you going to be at the Yankees for a year, go for a $760 million contract, and then expect them to give you a suite. Cashman would roll over in his grave if he knew that something like that was going to happen. But, Steve Cohen rides it all. We'll do whatever he wants. We'll wipe away the brown. We'll wipe anything else away and give him a suite, which is ridiculous. They gave this guy everything that he wanted, and you don't even know what's going to happen after, 2-3 years from now? This could be the next Bobby Bonilla contract, for all we know. We could be talking about this for years to come and laughing at the Mets because the Mets are going to Met.
Sorry, my kid was in the background. I didn't know what he needed.
You're good.
He came down. But yeah, I think honestly, I could see it going one of two ways. I could see it. I personally think it's going to bite the Mets in the butt. I really do. Soto's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Offensively, he's great. He'll get you over the hump with your offense. Defensively, that's another story. I don't think he's that great defensively. I really don't. I don't think he can play his position that well. But that's just my personal opinion. And I think that the only reason that, offensively he did well was Yankee Stadium is built a certain way for him to produce all those home runs. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, I believe Mets Stadium is the outfield deeper?
It's a pitcher's park. Right field ain't right field like Yankee Stadium over there.
So, I mean, it's gonna be different. But to my fellow, fans who are Yankees fans, I feel bad for you, dude. I'm just gonna say this. I really, and you might have a different opinion. I really did think he was going to go back to the Yankees. I really did. And he didn't want to be a Yankee, and you guys got to stick with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge took less money. He wants to be a Yankee. That is your guy. He wants the Yankee legacy. Juan Soto is a snake. He just wants money. That's all he wants. Mm-hmm. This is his 4th team in the span of 5 years?
Nationals, Padres, Yankees, and now the Mets. Yep.
So, I mean, he's stuck with the Mets now. He's stuck with them for 15 years. Well, 5 years. Really.
Yeah, 5-year opt-out.
5-year opt-out.
I don't think it's a player opt-out. I think it's the team opt-out.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I don't know. I think he's a snake. I really do. And I do think while I'm mad at Dombrowski for not getting a meeting, I can see also why. I can see why he didn't get a meeting because the price tag on this guy is ridiculous, and I just don't think he's worth it. I do think, however, and I can't remember if we talked about this when the season ended. I don't think we did. With them bringing in the 3 new investors, they raised around $500 million. Take that money and spend it on somebody else.
Yeah.
But going into the next thing that I want to talk about, and I don't know how to feel about it. I'm kind of iffy. I'm on the fence. I get why they're not, but Rob Thompson today was on MLB Network. He got his presser today. It came out that they're not shopping Alec Bohm. They're not shopping him. The rumors are false. They're not trying to trade him. And I'm kind of on the fence about that. I really am. I'm on the fence for 2 reasons. On one side of the fence, you have a really great offensive player. His stats last year spoke for himself. He was an all-star. He was driving in runs, hitting doubles. He was great. He was great offensively the first half of the year. Second half of the year, he kind of took a nosedive, was really just not that great. Turned into a bit of a diva. Just seemed like a kid. And I get it. He's young. He wants to do what's best for himself and best for the team, but he just he gave off the wrong vibes. It's all about him. Throwing temper tantrums in the dugout. And I think personally, if you did trade him, you probably would have gotten some better guys on the back end. I mean, looking at who's out there for third baseman, Alec Bregman. Granted, he's 31 years old, but he has an 8.6 WAR, which is pretty decent. His stat line last year was decent as well. He's a little bit older, so I get why they might want to shy away from the Alex Bregman route. And I'm looking through here at free agents for third base. Most of these guys are in their 30s.
Yeah, there's not much at the third base right now. And Bregman looks like he wants at least 7 years and 150 plus million. That's ridiculous if you're the Phillies. You have a guy with Aiden Miller and you still have Bohm, whatever route you want to take on that. But you still have Aiden Miller. And getting a guy or even thinking about acquiring about a guy, you shouldn't be going past the 2 to 3 year mark. And I don't think Bregman's going to take a 3-year contract. I think he wants his long-term end of his career contract where he can finish out. That's dumb. But I think I'm on the same page where you're at with Bohm. It was one of those things where he was good and he was great. And then he was and he was horrible. So my take on it is see if he can bounce back at this point. Because if you're not going to shop Bohm, you're not going to get Garrett Crochet. And that's a big problem. If that was who your number one ace or number one guy that you were going after this offseason and they didn't like the trade offer of Bohm and Crawford, you're not going to add anybody else in that trade where they're going to accept it. He finished with a 280 on the average, a 15 home run season. He had 41, 42 doubles, and he had a 97 RBIs. Even with having a horrible second half and an even worse playoff series, still had a good year. He was probably one of the best hitters in baseball going into the All-Star break. So I'm on the fence with it. You could have gotten a guy like Crochet or Kirby Miller or Miller or Gilbert from the Mariners, and then they were talking about Oswaldo Cabrera from the Yankees. I'm okay with it. You keep him. You see what happens. Just see if he can mature. That's the biggest problem right now. Is just see if he can get that maturity. He's 28, going to be 29. He has another 2 years, I think, in arbitration. So he's still cheap in that aspect. And if you can keep him for the next year, have him on a prove himself year, see if you can just get Aiden Miller out for the start of the 2020, what are we at, 26 season. I think you're good. I think they made the right decision here, especially if you don't want to just completely tear this roster apart. I think it's not the worst idea to keep him this year.
I don't think you tear the roster apart. I do think that, and again, we'll get into this more in a few minutes. I do think there's a difference between tearing it apart and getting some pieces to fill. And I think that's kind of where the issue stems right now for me, is that Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson are so set with who we have. And it's just it's not the vibe. It's not. And, like Joey said here, appreciate you tuning in, Havens, but Boehm, I mean, yeah, he needs to grow up. He needs to mature a little, but he's also, 27, 28? Like, he's at that age where he knows better. He's been playing for us this is his third, fourth year.
Yeah.
He knows better. Like
we went through this 2.5 years ago when he's over there missing balls and having errors and then cursing at the crowd. Like we went through the you need to be mature factor. This was just the same thing tenfold, in all honesty.
Right. And I'll leave it at this. I think everybody fell apart after the All-Star break. The entire team fell apart after the All-Star break. So
the schedule definitely had something to do with that.
So
for anybody that says anything, they didn't play above 500 teams. Granted, you don't get to pick your schedule, but you played real teams in the second half, and it showed.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave it at this. Well, I guess this will bring us into the next topic, but if the Phillies don't do anything, I can see us being third place in the NL East this year.
Yeah.
Maybe, Nationals just got the number one pick for the draft. So, maybe even towards the bottom of the barrel. I just, like you said, the Braves are out for vengeance. Mets are going to want a revenge season of last year because, they got so close and didn't make it.
They're also on a prove it year. You cannot not win the division after giving $765 million away.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And that brings us into our next topic of Dumb and Dumber. I thought this was a great name for this topic because I just can't stand, and you guys know how I felt at the end of last season with Rob Thompson and where I stood with Rob Thompson. Do I think he's a terrible coach? No. Do I think that, he just makes really dumb decisions and really dumb errors? Yes. And I feel like it's just an issue with him. I just looking, and I'm going to read back the text that I sent earlier, just looking at his presser earlier. Hold on, let me pull this up. Looking at the presser earlier. So first of all, he said it's between Stubby and Marchand for backup. They're battling out right now. Marchand doesn't have any options left. So if they go with him, they want to stick with him the entire year. Rob said he doesn't think we need to add another bat. He said we have a top 5 offense and we did very well last year. Doesn't matter. You blew it in the offseason.
Yep.
They haven't promised the new guy, which I can't remember his name right now because it's
Jordan Romero.
They didn't promise him a closing role. He is in the bullpen. He's going to be a back end guy. And then the one thing that pissed me off, and I don't know why we kept him after last season, Taijuan Walker. He's going through a rehab program or some kind of program to help him with his pitching. And it's all hypotheticals. It's all hypotheticals right now. Watching his presser, he was like, oh, it might work. Oh, we'll have to see. It might work. We don't know yet, though. And I just, it irritates me because, I can't sit through another season of hypotheticals. I can't. You need to go out and get another starting pitcher until Andrew Painter is ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's ready. I do. Unless you bring him up and use him as a starter role, give him an inning or two, and then bring somebody else in. But I can't go through another year of guys rotating throughout the rotation in that 5th starter spot.
That's what lost them. That's what killed them. It killed all momentum this year.
It killed him because as a batter, right? You don't know who your pitcher is every 5th day. You don't know who you're going to be behind defensively. You have to change your game plan defensively because not every pitcher has the same arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's if a guy's throwing a splitter, you got to be in a certain position on the field in case they hit it because it can go, certain areas, or another guy might throw a changeup or a curveball or whatever. you know.
No, dude, I totally get it.
I'm reading comments here.
No, you're
Hell,
good.
man, I'm going to be really angry if I hear I like our team. We had the best record in the first half, and our pitching was one of the best. We like the strides Martian Rojas have made in the outfield. The vibes suck with this team after that Mets series, and it really needs to shake up. Hellman, I agree with you. The vibes are completely terrible. We didn't see you in here at the end of last season, but if you're new, welcome to the show. Appreciate you here.
Absolutely.
One thing we said at the end of last season, and this brings up a good point. The whole vibes bullshit is
Over. Done. Nope.
I'm done with
Dancing on my own is over. We're done with all of this shit. All the stuff from the last 3 years has got to go. We can't do it. Like, this team is the definition of insanity. If you do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome, you're going to get the same fucking outcome. And I apologize, but this is just where we're at. 2022, 2023, 2024, you ran it back with practically the same exact team. You didn't add anything except Trey Turner, and he's had maybe, a half of a full season as like a productive player. And there's receipts. I'll be very frank when I say this. I thought Rob Thompson halfway through the year last year was going to win Manager of the Year. And I hear you chuckling back there. Yes. I
was golfing, but anyway.
They deserved to laugh. I'm going to be honest with you. But I think this is his prove-it year. You've had 2.5 years now of solid baseball. You now have in my opinion, a World Series of bust team. You have to beat out the Mets. You have to beat out the Braves. And you have to manage this team to get you go a full 162 game season. A report came out maybe an hour, 2 hours ago about Stott. And biggest concern for me was you have him with, either shoulder or elbow tightness, was dealing with that the entirety of the season. Everybody from a 5-year-old up until a scout saw that he was not the same player that he was in 2023. Why wouldn't you just sit him? You have Soto behind him. You had Merrifield for half the season. Like, to me, that's the things that bother me about Rob Thompson. He rides with guys way too long. Same thing that happened in 2023 with Kimbrel. Like, this is just the consistency of it all. Dombrowski, on the other hand, I don't know what conversations he has with John Middleton behind closed doors, because I feel like on one end, you have John Middleton sitting there like just with an empty check, ready to just go off. And then you have Dombrowski just sitting there like, I don't know, man, I think we're good. Like, I don't think we need to spend any money.
Is it Dombrowski anymore, though? Didn't they change who the person is now?
I think he's still leading. I know they added somebody else, but I think he was the assistant baseball or director of operations or something like that. I still think Dombrowski's leading the charge through the winter meetings and everything. But you got to do something because your fans are pissed. You know that if they don't sign anybody come April, you're going to have a hell of a time getting buy-in from this city. Everybody's been riding with Red October for 3 years now. Everybody's had a full buy-in, and you haven't done anything to keep that buy-in. You're at the point now where this culture is just dwindling, and you have Harper, you have Turner, you have Wheeler, you have Nola for X amount of years. You signed them all. So glad we did. We got all these contract extensions. Sign a big name, and we'll get the big names in a minute, but you got to do something because this is really looking like Dumb and Dumber Part 3. And I hate to say it, but the Phillies are just doing Philadelphia things, man. And get rid of Taijuan Walker. I don't care what trade you got to throw him into. I don't care what bat boy you got to get back. I don't care what you got to do. Get a bucket of balls. Figure out how to drop this $36 million that's left for 2 years and get away from it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think honestly, with my opinion right now, is I just Dave is just so he has his head in places where they should not be. And for him to just come out and give nonchalant answers, not be aggressive, not try is just annoying. I think for me personally, I kind of agree with you. You kind of took everything I was going to say. If they can't figure this out for another year, it's just all hell is going to break loose. You're going to have fans that are going to, ride or die fans that are just going to give up because you can't run it back again. You can't. I'm tired of our offense was good. We just kind of fell short. Yeah, you fell short. Cool, whatever. you need to get another bat to get you over that hump. You
Yep.
need to. You brought in Austin Hayes at the trade deadline, which was probably one of the stupidest trade deadline acquisitions. He didn't do anything, and then he was out for like a month and a half with his kidney problems. Which, granted, I'm not going to take anything from that. That's a serious problem.
But he wasn't good. He wasn't good before that.
He wasn't good before that. But again, that's a serious problem. I don't want to take away from that. Get that figured out. Whatever.
Just don't do it in Philly.
But yeah, I just Carlos Estevez. He was great for what he was. I liked that signing. I liked it. I didn't think he was terrible.
He did give up.
Did he have his moments? Yes, he had his moments where he was terrible.
He gave up a home run in Game 6 of the NLDS, but we'll get past that.
He was, for what he was decent. He got us some wins.
Oh, very much so.
What'd you say?
No, very much so. He got for what you gave away and what you got back, it makes sense. It's just you don't bring him back this year.
I don't think you bring him back. I do think you bring back Hoffman.
Nope.
You don't think we bring back Hoffman?
He wants to be a starter. And you're not going to take Walker out of the 5 spot. As much as we want to bitch and complain about you need a 5th starter, they're not going to get rid of Walker because nobody's going to take that contract. And you're not going to pay, $14, $18 million of half of it or break it off. You're just going to getting Hoffman is high risk, low or maybe high reward, maybe middle of the way reward. But he's going to want starter money. He's not going to want reliever money if he's going to be a starter. He's going to try to be the next Clay Holmes.
Yeah, it is what it is. But James, I'm going to bring up your comment here because we're going to get into it. This will take us into our next topic. My thing with Pete Alonso is, and this was another thing they briefly touched on during the presser. They were thinking about getting a first baseman. I don't think they are because I think that would severely fuck Bryce Harper over.
Yep.
But apparently they've been talking about possibly looking at first baseman, and I don't think that's the move, and I don't think Pete Alonso's the guy if they do decide to go for a first baseman.
He was almost a Gold Glover. What are we even talking about here? He was top 3 in Gold Glove, and you're talking about moving him away and screwing up the shoulder again. This is the first year you get Harper healthy on day 1. You haven't had this in years, and you're talking about moving him to the outfield where he can just throw the first ball back in, throw out his arm. Do not move him out of this infield. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't agree with it. But going into the next topic, what do the Phillies need? I'm going to start off with this, and here's my opinion on what we need. I think you need another closer. You need a solidified closer. Let me put it that way. You need somebody who is going to close out games for you, similar to Craig Kimbrell. Granted, Kimbrell was an idiot, whatever. But you knew that you could bring in Craig Kimbrell to close games if needed. Last year, you had closer by committee. I personally don't think it worked. I don't.
Nope.
I think it really threw guys off because you had guys that were really great as the 7-8 guys, and you had guys that were really great as the 9-hole. For example, like Jose Alvarado, you really, really screwed him up with throwing him in wherever you felt like it. I think it really threw him off. I personally think that Orion is your closer. And I think that's what they've been trying to work up to doing with him. I think Orion is your closer. You still have Matt Strahm. I still think Matt Strahm is your 7-8 guy. If you don't bring Jeff Hoffman back, which you probably won't, make Matt Strahm your 7-8 guy. But yeah, I think you need another closer. I definitely think you need another starter. As if you're not bringing Painter up, you need another starter. And I don't care that Taijuan Walker is going through this rehab thing. I don't think it's going to work. I think, like Brendan said, you need to get rid of his contract.
Just
I think we
because
need
you put
another
risk
starter.
on it.
You know, like
Yep.
James said here. We'll go through the list. Bullpen, yes. Infielder, no. Outfielder, yes. I said this at the end of last season. I think they need to get rid of Marsh. They're not going to, but I do think they need to get rid of Marsh. His strikeout rate was above 60%. He was absolutely terrible. Rojas. Here's my thing with Rojas. Rojas is really great defensively. It's just the offense he needed to figure out. And he's been playing in I want to say the Dominican League.
Yeah, something like that.
But like everything I've seen on Twitter from him playing in that league, he's been tearing it up, dude. Like he's been playing really great, and I think it's been helping him. And I want to keep him one more season. I want to see what he can do.
I get that. And I think it's we're past the daycare. I think we established that last year. I don't think that terminology should be brought up once this year. I don't think what were we talking? Dancing on My Own should be brought up once this year. I don't think that the vibes, the Stubbsy's playlist, his fucking Budweiser hat. Like I'm over it. Like play baseball, spend money.
I think he cut out there for a second. All right. Well, Brendan just lags, so he'll be back in a minute. But I think you do this. I think with Rojas, going back to Rojas, I think you keep him up until maybe like the trade deadline, see what he can do, and if he's not great, you see if you can trade him. If not, then you let him go. But yeah, I mean, looking at available guys, I mean, I'm going to share my screen here and we'll go through the list. I think Brendan's back.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, you lagged out there for a second.
It's these college kids in this town. They're killing my Wi-Fi.
Looking at available free agents list by list, and this kind of takes us into the next topic of who's available.
Right.
We'll skip catchers. We'll skip first baseman, second baseman. We'll skip shortstops. We kind of already talked about third baseman. They have, Alec Bregman. He's 31 years old, but everybody after that is kind of a fall off, honestly. Yeah. They're all in their 30s, except for Eric Wegman. He's 27, but I mean, his WAR is absolutely terrible. So I don't see us doing anything with the third baseman. Left fielder, that's what Nick Castellanos, right?
Nick's right, and Marsh was playing left.
Okay, so I mean, sorry, I'm like totally blanking right now.
Here, I'll take this one, brother. I got this because I've been doing research out the ass on this one. Your number one guy that you should be going after right now is Anthony Santander. That he is 30 years old. He's probably going to take a 5-year contract, being at like the $120, $135 million mark. That's fine. This is a guy who was top 10 in MVP voting last year, had over 40 home runs, over 100 RBIs, and has a strikeout rate of like less than 15%. You need to go out there and get a guy who can sit in that cleanup spot. I don't think people really understand the potential that Bryce Harper has if he has somebody that can be right behind him, who can back him up, and then people are going to be afraid to pitch to that guy. You have to pitch to Harper. You have to pitch to Turner. You have to pitch to Schwarber. And now you have a 1, 2, 3, 4 that is just scary. So going after a guy like Anthony Santander from Baltimore, great option, great outfielder, can play left field, has had many diving catches on the top 10. And another guy that I like, Teoscar Hernandez is out there, but I really like Jurickson Profar. He would be great from the Phillies. Another guy who's like a 280 average, not 880, 870-ish OPS. But again, can hit the ball, can be reliable, younger guy, and won't be as expensive as a, Soto, Tyler O'Neill going that route. That's who you need. To me, the order's always been you need an outfielder, you need a bullpen, you need a starting pitcher. Those are the only routes you go. And from a relief pitcher standpoint, go get the guy who you screwed up, did not get at the trade deadline. You go out there and you get Tanner Scott. He is the best option on the market for a relief pitcher. Strikeout rate, amazing. Pitches in shitty spots. He pitched for the Marlins for 3-4 years. went to the Padres, did great out there, had a combined 1.75 ERA all last year. That's amazing. You play for the Marlins half the year, still has an ERA under 2. You need to get a guy that can make these fans happy. And to me, the only people that are going to make Philadelphia happy are Santander or Scott.
What about I've been seeing some names going around today. What about Kyle Tucker or Teoscar? What do you think about that?
Teoscar is 32. And I think the biggest thing with him right now is that he still is in contract talks with the Dodgers. And there's a gap between what he wants and what they want. So it's most likely not going to happen. But like we were talking about at the beginning, after Soto decided to screw the entire market up, it's going to be a bidding war with the Yankees. And it's going to be a bidding war with the Red Sox. They're looking for an outfielder. I know that Baltimore just got Tyler O'Neill, and that means they're not signing Santander back. So it wouldn't be bad, but you need to get one of those 3 guys. You need to get a good power bat that could be your cleanup spot and can also play left field and isn't a liability.
Yeah, and I mean, I said it from the end of last year. I think Santander would be a good fit for our clubhouse. And some people are going to disagree with me there. Some people think that we don't need Santander. Me personally, I mean, I think he'll be a good fit. Looking at center fielders, there's Harrison Bader, there's Michael Taylor, Garrett Hampson, Kevin Pillar. A lot of these guys that just aren't really that great. Right fielders, Juan Soto already got signed. Anthony Santander, Teoscar Hernandez, we just talked about them. Max Kepler, Jason Hayward, those could be decent guys, but they're in their 30s.
Yeah.
Mike Tauchman, I think I said his name right.
Yeah.
He signed with the Chicago White Sox for 1 year. And again, everybody else is not that great. So, looking at starting pitchers.
Real quick, while we're talking about center field, one thing that people forget is that you still make trades during the winter meetings.
Yeah, true.
2 big names that people have talked about over the last week and a half, 2 weeks now that could be shopped is Luis Robert from the White Sox and Kyle Tucker from the Astros. If you can try to go out there and get one of those guys in a trade, that's great. You have prospects out the ass. Go sell somebody. This is not a team that needs to build for 10 years down the line. This is a team that needs to build for 2025, 2026, 2027. Because if you don't win a World Series within the next 3 years after spending all this money, being $9 million under the threshold, you are going to be the laughingstock of baseball. So go out there. I hate that Bohm is not on the block anymore, only for the reason that you're probably not going to get Garrett Crochet, and you wouldn't be able to mix in a Luis Robert into that trade either. But Kyle Tucker's out there, and if you really want to put a 2-for-1 in there, you can go with Kyle Tucker and Ryan Presley from the Astros and get a relief pitcher in there. He's 34, 35, somewhere in that range, but great relief pitcher, knows how to pitch in the playoffs. And then from the White Sox, you can go out there and get a starter with Crochet and a center fielder with Robert. The same thing we talked about at the deadline last year, but you got to do something. You got to do something. And it doesn't matter if it's a signing. It doesn't matter if it's a trade. Go out there, get something done.
Yeah, I mean, I want to look at these starting pitchers because I want to see what kind of packages you could do.
Right.
But I mean, looking at these starting pitchers, I mean, you got Corbin Burns, but he's probably he's probably gonna want. I think I'm getting sick, dude. But anyway,
it was only 65 degrees today, so
I think it's a change in temperature. But Corbin Burns is probably gonna want too much. Evaldi just went back, like Hellman said here, he just went back to the Rangers, so he just signed a 3-year deal with Texas. I think it was for $75 million. Yeah, right here, $75 million. Gotta sneeze, but
yeah, bless.
Jack Flattery, you got Kyle Gibson, Justin Verlander. Verlander's way too fucking old.
42 is way too old to even contemplate that decision.
I mean, you got a couple decent guys on here, honestly.
So I will say on my end, I think one name that you can look at, it's a low risk, high reward situation because it's going to be a prove it contract, is Walker Buehler, a guy who's proven in the playoffs. I think he had 18 or 19 scoreless straight innings last year or the year before. It's a decent way to fill that 5 spot with not a high contract. And the other thing is, we were just talking about it before the show started. Dombrowski apparently is interested in Sasaka, which is news to me and wild news in general, if you actually think about it. The Phillies were linked to Yamamoto last year. Harper made the contract or made the call to him. I think even when Ohtani was shopping around, Harper made that call. But if you can go out there and get a guy like Sasaka, who is talked about being better than Yu Darvish, better than Yamamoto, better than all these other guys who have been out there, I think that should be your number one priority. And granted, it's probably going to be, again, a 8 to 9 year contract, $300+ million. This is a guy that they've talked about for a couple of years now that says when he goes to the majors, when he hits the league, he's going to hit it by storm. And I was very sold on the Shane Bieber train until I just saw that he reportedly signed for a 1-year deal with Cleveland again. But we'll see. And just get rid of Taijuan Walker. Get rid of Tobias Harris. Oh, excuse me, Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna get what is his name? Rokai
Sasaka.
Rokai. I don't think we're gonna get him. I think he's a Dodger, especially with everything that they talked about today at the winter meetings with what he's looking at. Apparently he's looking at
the Mets. As long as he doesn't go to the Mets.
He's looking at success of Japanese players. He's taking into account things that his WBC teammates have said, success of teams in the playoffs. He's looking at a lot of different factors. I don't see how you wouldn't just go to the Dodgers, especially with Shohei and Yamamoto on there. They just won a World Series. They're both Japanese players. They both played for Japan in the WBC. So, I mean, I just don't see how you don't go to the Dodgers. If he doesn't go to the Dodgers,
I think the Padres.
I don't think he's going to the Phillies. I
think he stays on the West Coast, but I will say that Philadelphia would eat that up. They would be the biggest supporters of this guy coming to Philadelphia.
We never signed a Japanese player, right?
Look what happened when the Flyers signed Michkov. You do things that are out of the normal and you start winning. It's crazy concepts.
I would be surprised. I'll be surprised.
Oh, no, that would be even more surprising than if Juan Soto signed with the Phillies.
We'll see, man. We'll see. But I mean, there's a lot of guys available, and there really is. I just think that, again, I think Dave needs to get off his behind and do something, because it's the same thing with the trade deadline. He waited way too long. Everybody was off the table, and we got stuck, which, again, I think Carlos Estevez was good for what he was. You didn't, like you said,
bottom of the barrel, though.
But like you said, you didn't give up too much. You got a decent return. He won us some games. He did what he needed to do. Granted, playoffs was another story. I'll give him that. Austin Hayes, not as advertised. I mean, I thought that when I heard the signing, it was going to be decent. I thought he was going to be that guy that could give us a little bit of oomph.
Yeah.
Like just a little bit.
There's a couple options out there. I'm not going to say these are you can do it and it's going to be successful. I'm just saying they're out there. One's a pretty big name. I would say in the middle of the country, the other guy's another big name. Kenley Jensen is a free agent who has a wicked cutter. He knows playoffs. He knows how to pitch in shitty spots. And with this team, you get put into shitty spots. Let's just call it as it is. But the other one is a trade to the Brewers for Devin Williams. He's coming up on the last year.
Bring back Rhys Hoskins.
I cannot wait for somebody to say that when this season starts, and I can show them the hole that is in his glove that lost them the World Series against the Astros. Do not even fucking think about it. That is the worst decision. That's what Philly is. We're just a culture team. We're just a vibes team. All we're ever going to be is a fraternity house of overpaid players.
I'm just teasing you. No, but
Devin Williams could be a good option if you can get him.
I do. I do wish, and he's not ever going to come back. I mean, I do wish Reese finished out his career here. I do. I think he embodied what it means to be a Philly, but things happen. I mean, it's like the same with like Zach Ertz and the Eagles. Like he still does a lot for Philly, Zach Ertz, and he embodies what it means to be a Philadelphian athlete.
Unlike the 7'2" overpaid giant.
Hey, whatever. I have my own opinions about Embiid, but whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of guys on the market right now that are those guys that can get you over the hump.
It's just how hungry they are. That's literally what this boils down to.
Well,
if you want to go out there and open your checkbook, it's there.
Like I said, John wants his trophy back unless it costs too much. And, that was the other thing I wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion on. And if you're watching this right now, I'd love to get some of your takes in the comments if you're watching. Do you think the MLB needs a salary cap? I personally think yes. And I think yes for the following reasons. I think one, in the case of Juan Soto, you severely overpaid a player who is not, in my opinion, worth $765 million, almost $800 million with opt-outs.
Yep.
If he opts out. I don't think he's worth that much. I think it throws off the entire market because guys are going to want way too much money going into the off season now and
going into 2030, they're all going to be billionaires.
And it's not even that; it's the largest ever contract in all of sports.
Yeah.
And I think it just throws off a lot of contracts, not even for baseball. Just sports in general, it throws a lot of things off. And I think there needs to be a salary cap. I really do, because the Dodgers, they're pissing me off because it's like they can sign all these guys and it's like, we're just going to defer your money until whatever year.
Yeah.
We'll pay you on the back end, but you can play for us.
Yep.
And, they just signed, what's his name? Blake Snell.
Blake Snell. Yep.
So
$175 million.
That's what I'm saying. It's just annoying because you can defer all the money and then get whoever you want.
Yep.
So I think they needed a salary cap. I think it needs to be an even playing field like the NFL, because you have these large market teams like the Dodgers, like the Mets, that can go out and, because they have broadcasting rights for their teams, they earn all this additional money, they bring in all this revenue, they're able to use that revenue and get guys they want. You have smaller market teams, which, the Phillies used to be a small market team. We used to be a small market team, believe it or not.
7 years ago.
Years and years ago. Granted, now I believe we're considered a mid-market team.
I think they're top 5, yeah.
Not a large market, not a small market. We're kind of in the middle. But you have these small to mid-market teams that really can't get over the hump because, unfortunately, some teams just can't afford to pay these guys. They can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tampa Bay can't even rebuild their stadium.
Well, I mean, yeah, look at what's happening with the White Sox. Look at what's happening with the Athletics.
Yep.
The White Sox are, I think they're getting rid of. Weren't they getting rid of some kind of payment or something?
I think they're changing ownership.
I don't remember.
Yeah. It's enough to just cause chaos within an organization when you see somebody make $765 million and your roof got ripped off Tropicana Field less than 2 months ago, and now you have to go play at the Yankees spring training games. What are we talking about? This, to me, I think I'm on the same boat as you. I don't know how you get this done. I don't know how you go about this in the next 5 to 10 years when all these guys are already making this amount of money. Do you grandfather them in? Do you say, hey, by 2034, or now you have to do 2039 because it's 15 years from now? That's when the salary cap hits. I don't know, but something needs to change. And we haven't talked about this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are as big into baseball as we are. Manfred is ruining the game. If you bring in this golden bat bullshit you are ruining the game. If you don't get rid of anybody can make as much money as you possibly want, you're ruining the game. And like Hellman was just saying, they need a cap, but make it high. And the floor is so cheap that teams with billionaire owners can't cry poor. Also, a signing period so that these free agent period doesn't drag into March with these people like Boris. I'm glad you brought that last point up because Scott Boras is another one with too many hands in the cookie jar. He's ruining the game of baseball. He wants nothing but money. He doesn't want to see this game succeed. I feel like, maybe 2 years ago, baseball was going in the right direction, trying to bring in youth to, be interested in the game again. We're getting way too far ahead of ourselves bringing in a golden bat. This is not the same thing as having a guy on your bench in the NBA that's a six or like the
This
sixth.
is not the Savannah Bananas.
If you want baseball like that, go watch the Savannah Bananas. But this is Major League Baseball that's been around for over 140 years.
Those goddamn college kids. Brendan cut out, but yeah, dude, like Hellman said here, they need a free agent period where they have a limit to how long you can sign people, because you got periods dragging into when the season starts on when they sign people, and it gets really annoying. But like Brendan, I believe, was alluding to, and I think he's back, but
why not?
Let me finish this last topic, our last point, and then I'll hand it off to you. I do think Scott Boras ruins the game of baseball. I do think which granted, an agent wants to get the best for his people. Sure.
He doesn't want the best for them. He just wants the most money for them because he gets his 10% cut. That's all it is. You call it as it is, or I will, but I'll call it as it is. Scott Boras is a cheap guy who just sees nothing but dollar signs.
Yeah, I get it, but at the same time, if you were a player, you would want the most money.
I'm not arguing that at all. If I'm anybody else, I'm pissed that Soto is making $765.
Yeah. If you're a player and you want the most money, Scott Boras is going to be your guy. But whatever. Did you have anything you wanted to add though about?
I think I was just ranting about Scott Boras and Rob Manfred for about 2 minutes to myself, which is fine.
I think Manfred. I think Manfred is ruining the game.
Did you hear my golden bat bullshit?
Yeah, your golden bat stuff came through until before you cut off, but apparently it's not going through right now.
We don't even have robo-umps. We can't even call a good strike zone, but we're just going to throw batters in whenever we want.
I think that would ruin the entire. It
would give
certain teams an advantage. We give certain teams like the Phillies an advantage, maybe, possibly.
No, because Thompson wouldn't use it the right way. He'd throw Rojas in there to be like, oh, maybe he'll get on base so he get a stolen base because of the analytics.
Yeah, but last thing I want to talk about, looking at the 2025 expectations and predictions. We kind of touched on this earlier. I'm just going to make it super quick just because I got stuff I got to go do. But looking at expectations, I expect this team to be, and I said it earlier, I think we're going to be third place in the NL East. I think the Mets and the Braves are going to come back with a vengeance. Mets are on a revenge tour from last year and falling short. Braves, they just everything was an anomaly last year. I don't think the Phillies were as good as their record said. Granted, we won the NL East. I'll be the first to admit, we all soaked it in. I think we were all in over our heads, but now that we've had time to kind of sit and contemplate it and sit with it for a little bit, I think everything, was an anomaly. The Braves were riddled with injuries. The Mets were not that great until the end of the season, so it kind of let the Phillies get ahead and keep that lead. I think if the Mets were great all season, the Mets probably would have won the NL East. I really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think the Phillies, if they cannot go out and sign someone or do something, then we're going to be third or maybe even last in the NL East, because I feel like everybody in the NL East is just going to be out for a vengeance. So that's my prediction and that's my expectation.
I guess I'm at two ends of the spectrum on this. If you run it back with the same exact team you had last year, you're not going to have more than 88, 90 wins. I think that's just where you're at. You now don't just have the Mets. You don't just have the Braves. you have both of them guys to fight, like we've been talking about for the last 55 minutes now. If you go out there and get a Santander, you get a Profar, you get, whatever reason, you move Harper back to the outfield, you get maybe a Vlad Jr. at first, you could probably be in that 96, 97, 98 win range. That can put you into a position to win the East. But that's where I'm at. And the other thing is, how well can Rob Thompson manage this team and not overtrust guys? And can he manage a team that has Bryce Harper on it? Because I'm almost to the point now where I think that Harper is more managing than Thompson is, because it's whatever Harper says. And I'm good with that if it's going the right direction. But will it go in the right direction? Could this be JT's last year with the Phillies? Could this be Castellanos' last year? Most likely it'll be Marsh's last year unless he has a breakout year. It's going to be very interesting. And hopefully Stott got healthy enough over the offseason for him to come back like he was in 2023. I think if he can, he could be like, Luis Ariz and just be a hitting guy. Doesn't need to hit home runs, just get on base. You do all that. You get Andrew Painter up. You bring these guys in. You develop the team. You build around who you have instead of just worrying about, we need to do whatever we can to win the World Series. How about you just focus on game one? You focus on the spring training. You focus on pitchers and catchers. We are probably 2 months away, just about 2 months away, maybe a little bit over, but it's right around the corner. We are right around the corner from opening day, and it's going to be faster than anybody knows it. All of our hopes are going to be high again, and it's a World Series or bust year. You have to go out there and compete. The only way that I see people being happy with not winning the World Series or getting to the World Series is if you fight like hell through the NLCS. And that's not just going to like a game 5 and then getting blown out. That's going 6 or 7 and fighting the entire time. Guys are dying on the baseball field to win. I haven't seen that in years. I don't think 22 was like that because they got blown out against the Astros. 23 wasn't like that because they got blown out by the Diamondbacks, and 24 with the Mets. Go out there, fight for 162 games, and then fight for 16 more. That's what you need to do. And then we're one year closer. Aiden Miller.
I don't have anything to add, but I got to close out because I got some stuff going on in the back.
Yeah,
so that's all we have for you guys. That's all we have for you guys tonight. So you have anything you want to add? If not, you can go ahead and send us out.
All right, brother. That's about it from me. And as always, God bless. Go Phils.
The Vikings.
Swing and a drive, left field. It's gone! And it's gone! It is Bedlam at the bank!
The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Podcast right here. You already know. Go fucking subscribe. Go follow.